The Minnesota Timberwolves have existed for over 30 years. Skipping over the ins and outs of what's happened through the course of every single year, I feel like this Karl Anthony Towns tweet from a couple of seasons ago is the perfect way of summing up what's happened over the past decade or so. WTF. Anthony Edwards is the next man up in Minnesota, and to be short, he's been amazing on both ends of the floor. He told this Minnesota team that they weren't going to get swept, and guess what? They didn't.
Edwards. Gordon defends on a switch, crossover three. He got it!
Trust me when I say that this 21-year-old is going to be pushing top 5 much sooner than later. Though even with Anthony Edwards' rapid evolution and show-stopping performances, it still feels like the Timberwolves are lacking something after the Nuggets gentlemen swept them in the first round. Which sucks to say considering that infamous Gobert trade that drained a good portion of their assets. But first, today's content is brought to you guys by SoRare. Guys, our SoRare League is up to over 230 members and it's growing fast. Surprisingly, I've yet to win a week in our league, but I can't say the same for Harvey80, who was the winner of last week's competition. Now remember guys, in addition to our normal weekly gameplay, we now have a postseason long tournament that is being cumulatively scored to produce a total tournament score, meaning that if you get your score high enough, that you're going to be eligible for some sick prizes. Take a look at my lineup for this week and let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you feel like you could put together a better team. Sorry, Rudy, until you heat back up, I gotta keep you out of my lineup. Guys, use the link in the description below to sign up for SoRare and to join my private NBA league. If you sign up using my link, you'll get 20 free common cards to help you get started. Also, make sure that you set your lineup for the next playoff game week so that you can start climbing that playoff tournament leaderboard. Thank you, SoRare, for coming through and sponsoring today's content.
We fight, we fight. I think we just fight too far away, We always seem to be a team that fights really hard when our backs are against the wall and things are not going our way. But we gotta take that fight, utilize it early on in the games and stuff like that. So
while Edwards would eventually go number 1 overall in the 2020 NBA draft and had Zach LaVine, D. Wade, and Donovan Mitchell comparisons, there was still some doubt surrounding him, which wasn't about his ability, but his work ethic and dedication coming into the NBA, in part due to an interview with ESPN's Alex Scarborough, where Anthony Edwards would say that he's not really into the sport. The sport that he was referencing would be basketball. Here's the full quote. "I'm still not really into it. I love basketball. Yeah, basketball is my heart, but football is where I started, so I'll never forget about that. But don't get me wrong, basketball is number 1 because I feel like it's going to get me through a lot of stuff I need to get through." Edwards elaborated, basically saying that he views basketball as more of work than anything. Quote, "It's what I do, it's a job." Edwards said, "I feel like I'm working right now. I love it." The more in depth that this interview got, the more doubt that I feel started to pile up. My man Edwards really said before the draft, to be honest, I can't watch basketball, and that if he were drafted by the NFL tomorrow, that he'd let basketball go because, quote, "You can do anything on the field. You can spike the ball, you can dance, you can do all type of disrespectful stuff. In the NBA, he said that you can't do any of that because you'll get fined," which isn't wrong, because you can literally get ejected in an NBA game for looking at the ref wrong. Looking back at it, this whole thing by Anthony Edwards feels like a nasty troll job. Edwards' trainer Justin Holland would later explain that Edwards still had some growing to do and that he did in fact love basketball. And it turns out that he was right, as Minnesota would strike gold in the 2020 NBA draft, which, might I add, was much needed. As I stated earlier, this team hasn't exactly had the best luck with its stars in Minnesota. But as I say this, it's worth noting that Minnesota stars have had success elsewhere, with a good bit even winning a championship after their time in Minnesota, which you can't help but be happy for them, but at the same time, you probably wonder, why could that not be us? Kevin Garnett would be traded to the Celtics where he'd win a ring in Boston, Kevin Love would be traded to the Cavs, where he'd win a ring with Cleveland. Wiggins, who wasn't a star in Minnesota, but was the #1 overall pick, would win a ring with the Warriors and become an all-star while thriving in his new role with them while not being the main option anymore. Then there's Jimmy Butler, who has just been dumb good in Miami, continuing to exceed expectations, being one of the best floor raisers in the league. From the final appearance in the bubble to upsetting the Bucks, how can you not love Jimmy Buckets?
You returned to practice for the first time with the Wolves, and I'm just gonna read a little bit of Adrian Wojnarowski's report on what happened there. That you were loud, emotional, passionate, we like to say, targeting Coach Tom Thibodeau, teammates like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. That you told GM Scott Layton, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it's true. A lot of it is true. But you got to think, I haven't played basketball in so long, and I'm so passionate, and I love the game, and I don't do it for any other reason except for to compete and go up against the best to try to prove that I can hang. So all my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No, but I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're gonna get inside the lines. And
I was gonna say, is it not the right way for it to come out? Do you think it was the wrong thing to do, or was
No.
it an okay thing to do?
I think that I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another. If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not gonna take it offense. It's not personal. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you're probably right.
How could you not love the owner of Big Face Coffee? I know that some Wolves fans didn't like Jimmy, but I also know that some did while enjoying the level of intensity that he brought. Jimmy really did want the best for that team. Man, somebody remind me what Jimmy was traded for again? I still can't believe that this interview happened and how fast that it did. Trust me when I say that you have to hear Jeff Teague's version of this story. I feel like Jimmy and Anthony Edwards are cut from the same cloth. Two players who are willing to do whatever it takes for their team to win, and also, of course, two players who are brutally honest.
I think he was in people's heads, like he wasn't even blocking shots for a long day. I think he was people was just going to the rim and it was just like, oh, they got Rudy Gobert. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling them like, bro, he's the same as anybody else, bro. Like, to me, the best rim protector in the league is Porzingis. Like, anytime I go against Porzingis, I don't get no layups. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't get why we couldn't finish on Rudy Gobert, but don't put no fear in my heart. I mean, yeah, I don't know why.
It's comedy to me that Anthony Edwards said that Rudy Gobert doesn't put any fear in his heart, and then the Timberwolves went out and traded this chest of assets for him in an attempt to go win now with the team they should have always been operating on the Anthony Edwards timeline. The good news is that apparently the Timberwolves have seen the light, with Tim Connolly saying that, "I think pretty much every decision we're going to make going forward is going to be with Ant paramount." The bad news is that it shouldn't have took you getting gentlemen swept by the Nuggets in Denver to see that. Gobert is out here punching his teammates out of frustration, and Ant is going around liking comments putting the Gobert trade on blast. You guys know that I have to always give you both sides. At the same time that this is going on, Ant is also on IG saying that the 4th DPOY is on the way for Gobert, and also this duo literally had dinner a few nights ago, so this is a really weird situation to feel out. But yeah, Anthony Edwards really liked that comment. I even went back and checked it out myself because I didn't believe it. Admittedly, I'm not as down on Gobert as most people. I actually think that he was the Wolves' second best player in the Nuggets series, having a ton of elite moments against Jokic while averaging 15 points, 12.2 rebounds, and a block. It's just that even with this in mind, he didn't play up to his contract or trade tag this season, and to be fair, that's almost impossible to do. Could you imagine a defense that had Anthony Edwards locked in, playing this elite level defense with Vanderbilt and McDaniels?
His pass deflected, they turned it over. KCP. Brown. Edwards.
Luckily for Wolves fans, Gobert has vowed to come back better than ever, saying that I haven't really been able to be as dominant as I can become and really be able to try to reach my full potential. I know I have more gears that I can get to, and that's why it's exciting for me to do that, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to try to get to that level. While I'm glad to hear that this 30-year-old center is going to work on all parts of his game, I really want him to focus on catching and finishing. I wouldn't hate a soft hook either, but I could understand that I might be asking for too much. It's just that if he could consistently catch or secure the ball at an elite level, I feel like he would be viewed a lot differently as a player. I don't think that multiple players are ignoring him because they don't want him to score. It's just that they don't want to risk a turnover. With all of this being said, I fully expect to see clips of Gobert chucking threes this offseason with lethal shooter passing him the ball. But also, luckily for Wolves fans, things aren't as bad as they seem. They still have a lot of talent even after the trade. They just need to get healthy, spend more time together, and lock in a direction which it seems like they're ready to do. We all know how much I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker on this channel. They need to bring him back at all costs. He was an underrated midseason acquisition whose defense on Murray was great, and offensively, he has a dumb bag that he's starting to get more and more comfortable with, playing a controlled style of basketball. In New Orleans, Nickeil was his own biggest enemy, and it hurt so much to see because I wanted him to be successful so bad. Timberwolves fans, you guys already know this one, but I want to see you guys lock up Nas long term if possible. But there's always that chance that Big Jelly might not come cheap and also might be looking for a larger role elsewhere. The Wolves just have to hope that somebody doesn't hit them with a silly offer. Like I said, the Wolves need to lock in their future and just pick a direction with everything that we know now. Do you guys think that Cat will be a part of the Wolves' future? If you ask me, trading him while his value is close to an all-time low just doesn't make a ton of sense. If you really do want to trade him, you have to think that his best basketball is upcoming and that his value should only be going up. I love the idea of Cat. If I'm the Timberwolves, unless I get this silly offer out of nowhere, I'm seeing what this core can do together after a full offseason. Don't hate me, but I think that with the right offseason moves and more rapid progression from the 21-year-old Anthony Edwards, that this team could be dangerous next year. We've seen the elite improvement on defense. I want to see him continue to grow as a playmaker, especially in the pick and roll, and also keep improving as a leader. Ant was really out here at 21, giving the Nuggets 31.6 points, 5.2 assists, and 5 rebounds a game. When I tell you guys that the sky's the limit for him, I really do mean it. While I wouldn't mind seeing this team give its core another go, I really do feel like we just might see some nonsense from this team in the offseason. And by nonsense, I just mean another big move, but I guess time will tell. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.